This is Not Hampstead, a tiny little village right on the northeastern fringes of the county of Hertfordshire. In fact, if you were to walk around the county and ask anybody if they ever heard of Not Hampstead, I can guarantee 99% of them say, "What? Never heard of it." But during the war, it was home to a massive American Air Force base, and it still plays an interesting role in modern day life, believe it or not. But this here is the Woodman pub, which is right on the edge of the old airfield, and it's been much extended over the years. All it originally used to be during the war was this section here with a thatch on it, but because it's become so popular with tourists, ramblers, and a lot of World War II veterans have come here over the years, big parties of them, so they've had to extend the pub to accommodate its popularity. Anyway, we're going to take a walk over the airfield. You're going to find it interesting. I'm standing right out in the middle of what used to be RAF Nuthampstead, and this was an American Air Force base that was built in 1942 by American Army engineers for the 8th Air Force. Now, although it was designed for heavy bombers, initially it was used by the 55th Fighter Group flying P-38 Lightnings. But by April 1944, the 55th moved over to Essex, and the 398th Heavy Bomb Group moved in from Rapid City, South Dakota. Now, initially, they had huge concrete runways here, and these were actually constructed with hardcore that was imported from East London. All the rubble from bombed out buildings during the Blitz was used to actually build the runways. So we're going to take a walk round and have a look at the base today. This grass strip here used to be one of the massive concrete runways, and it stretches right the way down there, and the border of Essex actually runs right through part of the base. And Essex is just over there. Now I think they just fly light aircraft off of this bit. Before the base was built, this area was known as Scales Park, and it was covered in loads of giant old oak trees which were being grown specifically to build ships for the Royal Navy back in the 1700s. But all of these were all chopped down and destroyed to make way for the airbase. And the forest that you can see here didn't exist during the war. That was all planted after the war. And apparently somewhere in there, I think there are still some buildings existing. So we're going to have a look, see if we can find them. Despite the fact that the runways don't exist anymore, most of the concrete infrastructure still does, and these were all the roads that led to various buildings dotted around the airbase, plus most of them led out to all the aircraft dispersals which were dotted all around the perimeter of the airbase. I'm going to take a walk, see if we can find any old existing buildings. I've just stopped to take a look at this little concrete road that runs off. Don't know where it leads to, but apparently, although the runways have gone, as you can see, a lot of the old concrete roads and stuff are still here. And this area, which is now covered by forest, when the base was operational, it used to be used for bomb storage facilities and stuff like that. And after the war, the Royal Engineers had a hell of a job. They spent months trying to excavate out all of the unexploded ordnance to make it safe so that they could start planting forest. If I had the time, I'd love to take a walk down, see where they all lead to, but time is short, so let's crack on. By the shape of this huge curved concrete section here, I'm guessing this was part of one of the dispersals. But I've just bumped into a gamekeeper, and I asked him about where these buildings are, and it turned out I was going the wrong way. They're about a mile down that way. Here we go. I'm scouring the woods looking for these old buildings, but not having a lot of success at the moment. But every now and again I'm finding these areas of disturbed ground with these huge blocks of moss-covered concrete and corrugated iron, which is obviously used for roofing on buildings. Anyway, it's getting pretty dense here, but I'm going to crack on, see if I can find any of these huts. I've just bumped into some dog walkers, and they've pointed me in the right direction for these huts. They're somewhere right down the bottom of this old trackway somewhere, so let's go take a look. Just come across this huge square area with this earth piled up in a huge mound, and I think there's another one next to it. I'm wondering if that's an old fuel dump or an ammunition dump. In fact, there's quite a few of them along here. You can see them just row upon row of mounds of earth. Wow. And eureka, I finally found one of them. Here's one of the old wartime Nissen huts. But this is one of the original wartime buildings, and obviously it's being maintained. It's got new corrugated roofing on it and new door. I think they use it for the forestry workers and stuff like that, but there are supposed to be more, but finding them, that's the problem. But well, at least I found one, eh? I was just walking up the trackway from that old building there, and I think I found the remains of another one just in here. Well, there's the remains of an old Nissen hut. Don't know what it used to be used for, but they've just got a bit of old machinery in there at the moment. Oh wow, can't see any more anywhere. Ah. Can you believe it? I've actually come out on that trackway that I looked at earlier, and I said I didn't have the time to go and walk down it. If I'd have gone down there in the first place, I would have found the building straight away. Oh, Bart Simpson would be proud of me. Oh! By the end of the war, the 398th Bomb Group based here had flown 195 missions, losing 58 aircraft in the process. Now, when the war ended, the 398th Bomb Group flew back to America, and Nuthampstead was handed over to the Royal Air Force. But it wasn't used as an active airbase after that. Believe it or not, it was actually used as a storage facility for all of the surplus munitions and ordnance left over from the war. All the bombs, shells, rockets, missiles, hand grenades, bullets, everything were all brought here and stored, and gradually over the years it was all taken out into the North Sea and dumped. But the base finally closed in 1960, and then they began the process of converting it all back into farmland. Now, this used to be one of the big concrete runways. Now all the runways here, if you remember rightly, I told you that when they were actually built, they were built using rubble from buildings that were bombed out during the Blitz in London. Well, all the concrete and all that rubble was then broken up, and it was taken out and used as foundation work for Britain's first motorway, the M1, believe it or not. What an amazing bit of recycling. But now it's all farmland and forestry. But amazingly enough, despite the fact few people in the county have ever heard of Nuthampstead, it very nearly became a household name and had a huge impact on our everyday lives. By the mid-1960s, Britain's two major airports, Heathrow and Gatwick, were reaching full capacity. So the government set up a commission to try and find a suitable location for a third London airport, and it was called the Roskill Commission in 1968. Now they had 4 locations on their shortlist. There was Cublington in Buckinghamshire, there was Foulness in Essex, there was Thurley in Bedfordshire, and believe it or not, they even considered Nuthampstead as a suitable location for London's third airport. But as things turned out, they opted for Stansted, so this place got a reprieve. And I should imagine a lot of people who lived out here were relieved at that. I mean, the impact it would have had on the environment here. You've got miles and miles of unspoilt countryside here, and when you look at modern airports now, all the infrastructure that has to be provided for it, railway lines, motorways, and all the building work that goes on, it would have had a devastating impact on this part of the county. But fortunately it never happened. But believe it or not, this isolated little place right on the fringes of Hertfordshire still plays a vital role in modern aviation. And if you come with me, I'll show you why. That huge antenna array right out in the middle of the airfield is called VOR, VHF omnidirectional range, and it's actually a navigational direction finding beacon for every aircraft flying around the southeast of England, and that's what helps them to find their way. And that's why Nuthampstead still plays a vital role in modern aviation. Imagine if it weren't for that, they'd all get lost and end up in the wrong countries. Only kidding, I think. Oh, it must have been great being a kid around here during the war. Fantastic. This huge area of concrete hard standing is all that remains of what used to be the giant T2 type hangar that was here, where they used to repair aircraft. But it played a very interesting role in the history of the base. On the 2nd of October 1944, Glen Miller and his orchestra turned up at the base, and they gave a concert to the personnel right here. Right here. Can you imagine it? Chattanooga Choo Choo, In the Mood, all happening right here. Then of course it must have been one of his last concerts. A few weeks later he died on his way over the English Channel, never to be seen again. Amazing. Pub time. They actually have an Airfield museum here which is open on certain days of the month. Sadly it's not open today, but it's very interesting inside. They've got a lot of wartime material in there, and it's also popular with a lot of the parties of World War II veterans who actually come here just to visit the airbase and the pub and the museum. It's well worth a visit. It's quite fascinating. As you can see, the pub's very popular with walkers and ramblers, etc. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. See you again next time. Cheers.